This is a video to show the solutions for the procedural numeracy test for Year 9 from 2014. Write the missing number. So we've first of all been given the extreme, and that is that £1 is equal to 152 Jamaican dollars. And we've been asked to work out what £3 will be. Well, £3 will be more, and in particular 3 times more. So I'm going to do 152 times 3. So 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 5 is 15, so I'd carry the 1, 3 times 1 is 3, and the 1 is 4, so it is 456 Jamaican dollars. On a scale drawing, 2 centimeters represents 1 meter. What is the scale? Now, to represent this as a scale, we must first of all work with these two quantities being in the same unit. So that is 2 centimeters represents 100 centimeters. And then to convert it into the scale, we would need to simplify this and divide by 2, which would give us 1 to 50. Question 3. Write 0.75 as a fraction. Well, I would hope that you would recognize 0.75 as being 3/4, but other answers would be accepted that are equivalent to 3/4, and the most popular alternative answer could be that you would recognize it is 75 over 100. Both perfectly acceptable answers. The second part of this question says write 4/5 as a decimal. Now, personally, what I would do is I would convert the 4/5 into an equivalent fraction with tenths as the denominator. To do this, I would double top and bottom. So 4/5 is the same as 8 tenths. And then I know that 8 tenths is 0.8, which is a case of putting an eighth in the tenths column. Question 4. 1000 divided by bracket 12 plus 8. Well, this is a BODMAS question, so we must first of all do the brackets. So it is 1000 divided by 20. And then to simplify this division, we can cancel a 0 off each of the numbers. And the simplified version of this would be 100 divided by 2, which is 50. Write down two values greater than 0 that add to 0.1. Many different examples here, so this is one that does work. 0.03 plus 0.07 would add to 0.01. Question 6. Rohan has £14 in 20 pence coins. How many 20 pence coins does Rohan have? Well, in every pound there are 5 20 pence coins. So this would be a case of 14 times 5. So I would do 5 4s and then 5 10s. 5 4s are 20, 5 10s are 50. That gives me 70 coins altogether. Question 7. 10 cubed. Well, this means 10 times 10 times 10, which gives me a grand total of 1000. Question 8. What percentage of 300 is 60? So I would do this as 60 out of 300 times 100. So if I multiply the tops, that would give me 6000 divided by 300. I can do a bit of cancelling down, 2 zeros from the top, go with 2 zeros on the bottom, and this problem simplifies then to 60 divided by 3, and the answer is that is 20%. Question 9. 20 times 0.07. I would do this by ignoring the decimal and do 20 times 7 to begin with, which is 140. Then I take a look at the decimal and I realise it's 2 decimal places, so I would need to put my decimal point back in 2 places from the end, so the answer is 1.4. Question 10. This formula changes degrees C to degrees F. So to do this, we would multiply by 1/5 times by 9 and add 32. So it says complete the formula to change from degrees F to degrees C, so that's the opposite. So what we can do is work backwards through this machine. So instead of first of all adding 32, we would minus 32. Instead of times 9, we would divide 9. And instead of times 5th, we would divide by 1/5. Question 11. Change 6 1/8 of a kilogram into grams. Now, it would be nice if we knew what 1/8 of a kilogram was as a decimal. And what I would do, turn that into a decimal to start with, is think, right, okay, I know what a half is. A half is 0.5. A quarter is half of a half, so halving 0.5 is 0.25, and then an eighth is half of a quarter, so we have to half our 0.25, which gives us 0.125. So 1/8 is actually 0.125 as a decimal. So 6 1/8 of a kilogram is the same as saying 6.125. Now if I want to turn that into grams, what I need to do is times that by 1,000, and it gives me 6,125 grams. This is a pie chart showing the favourite type of film. Question 1 is work out the missing angle for action films. Well, the first thing we would have to do is add up the angles that we've been given. So we've been given a 120, a 90, and a 72. So if I add those up, what I can see is that that first column comes to 2, the second column comes to 9, 10, 11, 18, carry 1, and then the last column will come to 2, so 282. Then what I would have to do is take that answer away from 360, and that would give me the missing angle. Now, this time I would need to borrow to make the first column possible, so 10 take away 2 is 8. Now I've got 5 take away 8, which I can't do, so I borrow from the 3, so it's 15 take away 8, which is 7, and then 2 take away 2 at the front is 0. So the answer is 78 degrees is the missing value. Part 2. 20 people said their favourite film was comedy. So how many people were there in the survey? Well, comedy, it takes up an angle of 120 degrees, which is 1/3 of the pie chart. So that means that there would be 3 times as many people in the entire survey. So it would be 20 times 3, which is 60 people altogether. Question 13. 10 sevenths is equal to a recurring decimal, 1.42857, 1.42857, and so on. Round this to 3 decimal places. So 3 decimal places would be 1.428, but it could go up. So the most important digit, I suppose, is the one after that cut-off point, which in this case is a 5, which will round up the digits, making it 1.429 to 3 decimal places. We're then asked to round the number to 3 significant figures. So if I rub out my initial markings, the first 3 significant figures are 1, 4, and 2. So that may stay as 142 or it may go up. But what you'll notice is the next digit after the 2 is an 8, which also will round things up, giving you 1.43 to 3 significant figures. Question 14. Work out 6 2/3 plus 10 1/4. Now we cannot add fractions that have different denominators, so what we have to do is change them into fractions that have the same denominator. To do this, we multiply each fraction. So fraction 1, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 4, and fraction 2, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 3. These numbers have been chosen because they are in fact the denominator of the other fraction. So how do I go about this? Well, the first one will still have 6 as a whole number in front. Then when I multiply top and bottom of the 2/3 by 4, I get 8/12. The second fraction was the 10 whole will stay there, but the quarter, when I multiply top and bottom of it by 3, will become 3/12. And when I add the whole numbers and the fractions separately, 10 add 6 is going to give me 16 as the whole number part, and the 12ths will come to 11/12, adding the numerators only. Question 15. The circumference of a circle is 314 centimeters. What is the diameter of the circle? Well, when we usually do circumference, the formula for circumference is pi times diameter. But this says, what is the diameter? Well, when we rearrange this, the diameter would be circumference divided by pi, working backwards. So if I substitute the numbers I have into that formula, diameter would be circumference, which is 314, divided by pi, which is 3.14, and that goes in exactly 100 times. So the diameter would be 100. Time equals distance over speed. So distance equals, so if we work backwards, the original formula had distance being divided by speed, so the opposite of divide by speed is multiply by speed, so I'm going to do speed times time as the rearranged version of that formula. Keris opens a bank account with £400. After 1 year, the bank pays interest of 1.25% into her account. How much is in her account after 1 year? Now, we can do this in a few different ways, but I'll start off with one of the most popular ways, which is working out 10% first. So 10% will be 40. 1%, I can work that out for my 10% answer by dividing it by 10. So I know 1% would be £4. I can then half that to give me 0.5%, and I'd half the £4 to give me £2. And then I can half the 0.5% to give me 0.25%, and that would be half of the 0.5 answer, which is then going to be £1. So for 1.25%, I would need my 1% answer and my 0.25% answer, which add up to £5. So the total in her bank account would then be 400, which is her original amount of money, plus £5. Question 18. This is a scatter diagram to show the reaction times of 10 people. Circle the description below that describes the correlation between the first and second attempts. Well, generally these crosses slope upwards, so this is best known as a positive correlation. The second question says, how many of the 10 people took longer on their second attempt than their first attempt? Now, in order to make this easier, what I'm about to draw is a diagonal line. Now, that diagonal line would represent people that took exactly the same time on both tests. For example, if I highlight this point here, the person here would have taken 100 seconds for both attempts. If I pick another place, this person would have taken 250 seconds for both attempts, and I could have picked many more. So, the question I'm trying to attempt to answer is how many people took longer on their second attempt. This axis is showing the second attempts, and what you can see is these two people I circled did in fact take longer on their second attempts, so it was 2. Question 19. 20% of a cake is banana, 25% is flour. A slice of this cake contains 40 grams of flour. How many grams of banana are in this slice of cake? Well, I'm going to first focus my attention on the flour because we have 2 pieces of information about the flour. We know that the flour is 25% of the entire cake, and we know it's 40 grams. So if 25% is equal to 40 grams, that means 100%, or the entire cake, should be 4 times this. So it would be 160 grams. Now, the question is how many grams of banana are in the cake? So, what we know about that is we know that that's 20%. So what I've got to do is find 20% of the 160 grams. Well, I know 10% would be 16 grams, and therefore I can work out 20% by doubling this, so it would be 32 grams. 1/6 is a recurring decimal because 1 divided by 6 would be 0.166666666, etc. Circle the values below that are also recurring decimals. Now, this is something that you would be expected to know, and recurring decimals, 1/3 is 0.33333 or 0.3 recurring, and 1/9 is 0.11111 or 0.1 recurring. Incidentally, the other 3 that are not recurring is 1/4 is 0.25, 1/5 is 0.2, and 1/8 is 0.125, all of which you could be expected to be asked. 21. Work out the missing number in seconds. So we were told that these 2 statements have got to have the same average speed. So the first on the left is 1 meter in 3 minutes, and it's meant to be the same as 1 centimeter in blank seconds. Okay, now then, if I take a little look at this left-hand side, I know that I've got to convert the time in seconds. So I'm going to just first of all convert this 3 minutes into seconds. So this is going to be 180 seconds. Okay, we know that the 1 meter is also 100 centimeters. So that's what the left-hand side is saying. It's going to do 100 centimeters in 180 seconds. Well, what I would do with these 2 numbers now to turn them into the right-hand side is I would divide both of them by 100. So the 100 centimeters divided by 100 would give me the 1 centimeter. And then if I do the 180 seconds divided by 100, it would be 1.8 seconds. Question 22. Circle the value below that equals 8.2 times 10 to the power 7. Okay, so this is 8.2 times 10 million. So it's 1 with 7 zeros, in other words. So what you've got to do is move the digits in the 8.2 7 places to the left. And that is going to mean that you would have 6 noughts, so the answer is 82 million. Question 23. 200 runners took part in a race. The chart shows information about them. About how many runners had not finished the race 4 hours after the start? So here is 4 hours after the start. We'll take a look at this cross above that, and that is showing us that we have 80, just above 80 runners haven't finished. So I'm very quickly going to have to figure out what each square is worth. Now if we take a look at the first part of the graph, from 0 to 40 we can see that's been split into 4 squares. So every square is worth 10. So because this is half a square above 80, it's going to be worth 85. What percentage of the runners finished the race in a time of 3 hours or less? So if we take a look at 3 hours and take a look at the cross that corresponds with that, what we can see is that cross is on 170. So that's 170 runners who had not finished the race. So the flip side of that is that means that 30 runners must have finished the race. Now to express this as a percentage, first of all we would say, well, that's 30 out of 200. Now percent means out of 100, so probably the easiest thing to do here would be to make an equivalent fraction out of 100 by halving the top and bottom of this fraction. Now that then makes 15%. 2/3 of the members of a club are female. Now I could express this in a diagram. If I take my diagram and split it up into thirds, what we've got then is we've got 2/3 are female. Then it says 1/4 of those females are less than 18. So if I split those into quarters, 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, then what we know is 1/4 of that, so if I just put a ring around that part, 1/4 is going to be females less than 18. So what fraction are female and less than 18? Well, what would be worth looking at is what fractions have I created? Well, on the left part of this diagram I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces. Now if I had also split this extra third up, what I would in fact have is 12 equal sized pieces. So my fraction is 12ths. And the rectangle I've circled at the top left there, that would be equivalent to 2/12. And that is my answer, 2/12. Now you could simplify it to 1/6 if you wanted as well, but you wouldn't get any extra marks for doing so. Now that's one way of doing it, but you could also have done it by multiplying, and you could have done 2/3 times 1/4, and then what you would have to do is multiply the tops. 2 times 1 is 2, and then finally 3 times 4 is 12. Question 25. The side length of square A is 1/3 of the side length of square B. Or, to say that the other way around, the lengths of the sides of square B are actually 3 times the size of length A. Now, because no measurements have been given, what I'm going to do is represent the lengths of A by side of unit 1, and the lengths and width of B, because it's 3 times the size, I will represent with 3's. Okay, so what we've been asked to do, it says the ratio of the perimeters of A to B is 1 to something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the perimeter of each shape. So in shape A, it's 1, add 1, add 1, add 1. And shape B would be 3, add 3, add 3, add 3. Now this little lot adds up to 4 on the left and 12 on the right, which if I simplify that by dividing both by 4, it becomes 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the second part of the question is the ratio of the areas. So if I take a look at these areas, the area of rectangle A is 1 times 1, which is 1, and the area of rectangle B is 3 times 3, which is 9, so it's 1 to 9.